Hey, what's up, everybody? MIllen with Benefit Hackers. I need to relay a story I heard today from Tony Robbins. I was at an event last day at Funnel Hacking Live in Nashville, Tennessee. Amazing event for marketers and development and all kinds of things. But Tony Robbins was the keynote speaker. And I want to share a story that he relayed right at the end of, it was like a 3.5 hour session about him working with Conor McGregor. And if you don't know who Conor McGregor is, he's an MMA, mixed martial arts world champion that recently was on TV in a fight with a guy named, I think it was Cowboy, and it was over in 40 seconds. And if you see any clips, if you go online to YouTube, you could probably see this, but Tony Robbins is in the ring. And Tony actually took 2 trips over to see Conor McGregor overseas when he was training for the fight. And what was fascinating is what Tony Robbins shared today. And I just want to the best of my recollection, while it's still fresh, I just left the event, I want to try to relay this because it's really eye-opening in so many levels, and it applies to many things, not just MMA or mixed martial arts or whatever it is. And so this was really so cool, so I wanted to document this. So what he said was that he had studied Conor's fight tapes, and apparently, now I'm not a huge MMA fan, I do watch it occasionally, and he said that McGregor was really mad after the last fight, like angry to his competitor, and just worked up and really tense. And so as he was preparing him for the fight, Tony used an analogy of 3 different characters that he talked to Conor McGregor about. And the 3 characters are the warrior, the magician, and the other character I think was, I forget the name, but I think he called it love, maybe. And 3 descriptions, characteristics. And so he noticed that Conor was, when he's in a warrior stage or stance or preparation, he's tense. He's fired up. He's real intense. And the last couple of fights, he's noticed that. And helping him prepare mentally, he said because he was so tense, it might not be the right approach for the fight. And so then he said there's a characteristic called the magician. And Tony is describing this. He said, so Conor, so when you think of the warrior pose or warrior inside you, what does that look like? And he, obviously tensed up, got real mean and aggressive, and that's what he was like in his warrior stage. And so he said, okay, when you're a magician, tell me what that looks like when you're fighting. And he said Conor McGregor loosened up instantly. It was like free flowing, like, hey, yeah, I look at my opponent, and I look at things he's doing, and I was able to, one of the fights, I was able to see a twitch in the guy's finger, knowing that he was going to use that hand to punch, and he could sense it and see it. He was being like a magician, fluid and flexible and able to adjust back and forth. He said, okay, what is it that you love about your sport? Why do you do this? And he said that he went into an explanation about how he loves the sport and loves the competition. And it was a very different characteristic, the way his whole body and his whole emotional state was changing as he went from warrior to magician to what he loved about the sport. And so Tony talks about when you watch the fight, Conor came out not like a warrior, but more like a magician. And what happened is, if you watch it, it was over in 40 seconds. He ducked and missed. I think Conor missed something and ducked and leaned down and noticed out of the corner of his eye that he saw Cowboy's nose, and used his shoulder and lifted up his shoulder, a move that apparently he's never done before, and smack the guy in the face and cause his nose to start bleeding. And the fight was basically over shortly after that. So because he was acting like more of a magician, he was able to sense it and see it in the moment and use his shoulder, because he was fluid and flexible, to essentially end the fight. And then if you watch the fight, what he did next, Tony said, was part of when he talked about what do you love about the sport. He immediately went over and on his knees wrapped his arms around Cowboy to say that, hey, I appreciate the fight. I love you. It's a good competition. It's over. And then he went and found, I think it was the grandmother of Cowboy, and hugged her too, who in the past, I guess Conor was really confrontational to other fighters after the fight. And what was fascinating about this whole thing, and I'm probably not doing it justice, but if you think about the warrior and the magician, and then what he loved about the sport, he said that those things all came together in that moment and was probably a big reason why he won, amongst other things. I'm not saying Tony never said, I take credit for this, but he was one of his coaches. So you got to give him some credit the way he did that. And what I learned today is the emotional state of taking someone from a business owner or someone that's doing something for the love of it, or that needs to make a tough decision, or an entrepreneur. These are different states, mental states and emotional states that people have to go through sometimes. It's the same person. But when Tony Robbins was talking today, he said Conor McGregor is one person, but he had to adjust his mental state and who he was at different moments to allow him to win in his particular sport and what he was trying to do. Totally a fascinating experience today to listen to this. And if you're an MMA fighter fan, or you follow Conor McGregor, or you've studied Tony Robbins before, you can probably relate. I'm sure there's going to be some stuff coming out, but what a treat to be able to be in the same room and hear him talk about how that process went, and how he was able to work with him to bring out his peak potential and his peak performance through that process. So I hope this is valuable. Let me know what you think. Post some comments, share the podcast. But I just wanted to share this as soon as I could, so that while my memory is really fresh, I wish I would have recorded the whole thing, but he was talking for 3.5 hours. So it was a little hard to record for 3.5 hours. So there was parts of it I missed along the way. Hope this is valuable. Let me know. Hope you have a good night.